Thank you all so much for joining me on today's webinar on understanding AAM's updated B2B and farm rules. Now, before I get started, I do have some housekeeping notes. Currently, I do have everyone on mute. However, feel free to type in your questions in the chat box, and we'll do our best to address your questions during the webinar. If we're not able to address your questions during the webinar, we will definitely address them offline. Also, since we have a lot of material to go over today, I do have my colleague, Chad Jeanette, who is one of the audit directors here at AAM. He's going to help me with the facilitating of the questions. Now, like all my training webinars, this webinar is being recorded, and I will be sending out a follow-up webinar email that'll include the webinar recording, a copy of my PowerPoint presentation, a copy of my webinar notes with the updated rules, as well as some other helpful resources. So with that, let the fun begin with the rules. So on our agenda today, the main thing that our focus today is to go over the merge rules between AAM and BPA for B2B and farm publications. Now, before I dive into the main highlights of the merge rules, I'm going to briefly discuss how the rules were merged, when the rules went into effect, and the format of the rules. Then I'm going to go over the main highlights of the rule changes and discuss the rules by circulation topics. First, I will go over the rules specifically for both paid and qualified circulation. And then I'm going to talk about the rules that are specifically for paid and the rules specifically for qualified non-paid. I do want to point out that I'll briefly pause before each circulation rule topic to see if there are any rule questions that you have that we can address during the webinar. And then I'll close out the webinar with some helpful resources and contact information. So the merging of the rules. So truly, it's hard to believe, but it has been over a year since AAM and BPA have successfully merged. And part of that integration process, we have been reviewing, vetting, and consolidating both AAM rules and BPA standards into one set of rules. Now, while we did note there were different philosophies in how the rules were presented, the overall essence of the rules were very similar. We did note that BPA rules and standards were very detailed oriented, where AAM rules were more broad based. Now, over the past 3 years, AAM has worked with both news media divisions and consumer magazine division to streamline, consolidate both the rules and reporting formats. And the result was very positive. Both publishers and buyers indicated that less effort was required to satisfy both the reporting and audit requirements while still providing the essential circulation data for our buyers. So at the recent board meeting, it was noted that B2B and farm publishers and buyers agreed to apply to simplification consolidation philosophy for the merging of AAM and BPA rule reporting formats. So what does that mean in a nutshell? Basically, what it means is that AAM and BPA rules have been adopted AAM rule formats in which the rules are streamlined and more elevated with only the necessary rule specifics mentioned in the rules. This allows for more flexibility in the interpretation of the rules as things progress. Now, I do want to point out that AAM has excellent resource guides that expand upon this specific rule topic and goes into further detail regarding the requirements and provides various examples. So, for example, we have various guides on the qualification of paid versus qualified non-paid circulation. And currently, the resource guides are under review to ensure that all updated rule information has been captured. So, when do these rule changes go into effect? Well, technically, they're effective now. They went into effect with the January 2024 issue and will be reflected on the 6-month June 2024 publisher statement. Because of the similarities of rules between AAM and BPA, we were able to merge those rules fairly quickly, and so they are now effective now. We understand, though, that this is a quick turnaround and that more time may be needed for adjustments and transitions to the updated rules. So if you have any questions about the updated rules, how it affects your current program or future programs, please reach out to your audit director and they'll work with you. So again, if you have any questions about the updated rules and how it applies to your publication, please contact your audit director. They are awesome resources. Now, before I dive into the rules, actual updated rules, I wanted to go over the format of the rules. Now, for our AAM clients that were prior to the merger, the rule format is the same. But for our merged BPA clients, well, the rules are set up a little differently than how they were for BPA. So when you go onto AAM's main website and you click on our rules, first thing you're going to notice is bylaws. So bylaws are the foundation of AAM and membership obligations. Then it goes into the A rules, which are publicity rules, and that affects all divisions. Then we have the B rules. These are general rules that apply for all divisions as well. Then we get into media division specific rules. So the C rules are newspapers, the D rules are business publications, the E rules are farm publications, the F rules are consumer magazines. And then we have a couple pages of policies and practices. They're not rules per se, but they're policies and practices that we have. I also want to point out that when you go onto our website and you download our rules, you can download the United States rules, and then we have a separate rules for Canada. Do want to point out that the rules for Canada are very similar to US. There's just very minor just little minor differences, but for the most part, they are the same. So when I'm going over the rule updates, they are applicable for both US and our Canadian clients. So I do want to point that out, but we do have two separate rule books. The format of the rule books are very similar. The only difference is when you're looking at a Canadian rule book, it'll have the division, but a letter. So it'll begin, for example, the D rule, but then this rules themselves begin with the hundreds. So they'll start with D rule 101, D rule 102. For US, the rules are going to be D Rule 1.1 is how it starts. Now we're going to get into the fun part where we're going to go over the changes. So how I'm going to go about the rule updates and the highlights, the first thing I'm going to go over is what actually changed. And even though we are merged, we're one company, I did separate it between what was impactful for the AAM clients prior to the merger. Same thing with the BPA clients. So before the merger, how these rules are impacting you currently now. So we're going to talk about what the rule change was, how it impacts the AAM clients, and how it impacts the merged BPA clients. Because we truly did take the best of both worlds, and some rules stay the same for you, some things do change. Also, too, in the next few slides, you'll notice I'll have the actual rule reference. I also will have the BPA standards. So for those BPA clients, you'll see how those rules and standards, how they were tied to the AAM rule. Now, the first thing I'm going to go over, well, actually, it is not a rule change. It's a format change, but a very important format change. So the impact to BPA, you're not going to see a change. Actually, what we did is we mirrored what BPA, how they presented a publication that had print, digital, and print and digital unduplicated. So what BPA did when they reported a publication that had print and digital unduplicated, when you looked at their print number, it was print plus print and digital unduplicated. Then the digital number was digital plus the print and digital unduplicated. So this gave the reader of the report what their total distribution was for print and digital. But then there's a unique total. That unique total is the unique recipients. So when you add print and digital, it technically doesn't add together because it's a unique total. And that unique total is print only, digital only, and print and digital unduplicated. So we are adopting this format, and it goes into effect with the 6th June 2024 publisher statement. So like I said, for BPA clients, this is nothing new to you. This is how you are used to seeing print and digital, and print and digital unduplicated. For our AAM clients prior to the merger, this is going to be a new format for you. So you're probably thinking to yourself, what the heck am I talking about? Well, the best way to explain it is through an example. So the example I'm using is qualified non-paid circulation. So this publication that I'm using in my example has qualified non-paid individual print of 35,000. It has qualified non-paid individual digital of 15,000. And then it has qualified non-paid individual print and digital unduplicated. So when if you have if you're a publication that has all three components, you have print, digital, and print, digital, and duplicated, how you file that information is going to be the same. It does not change. So when you go into the filing tool, you're going to file your print, your digital, and your print and digital unduplicated. What's going to change though is how AAM is going to represent that information on the publisher statement. So for the publisher statement itself, when you see a publication that has qualified non-paid individual print, in this example, you see it's 40,000. How we came up with that number is we took the individual print number of 35,000 plus the individual print and digital unduplicated of 5,000. Then for digital, same process. What we did is we took that qualified non-paid individual digital of 15,000 plus we added in that individual print and digital unduplicated of 5,000. Now, if you notice 40,000 and 20,000, well, it doesn't add up to 55,000. And you're probably thinking, Sandy, you messed up your slide here. Well, I didn't. The total should be 55,000 because it represents the unique total of recipients, not the sum of print and digital. So this total here is not the individual print and individual digital. It is the total of digital print only plus digital only plus print and digital unduplicated. So it's 35,000 plus 15 plus 5,000. So truly what this does, it allows a reader of the report to see what your actual distribution is for print and digital, and then what the unique recipients are. So again, this is going to into effect with the 6-month June 2024 publisher statement period. Next, we're still talking about paid and qualified circulation, but what we're going to be talking about is multi-copy same addressee. So there wasn't a whole lot of change in the rule. And what you'll notice here is I have D2.1, so that's US, D102.1, well, that's Canada rules. And then if you notice, we have the E rules listed. E rules, remember, are farm. So just to let you know, the farm rules and business rules, very, very similar. There's some slight differences, but for the most part, they mirror each other. But we do have separate rules for business pubs versus farms. I did also list here the former applicable BPA standards. So for merge BPA clients, you'll have an idea of the standards, the BPA standards, and how they're tied into the current rule now. So what we did, the first thing that we did is simplify the rule language, and you're going to find that through every rule we updated, we simplify the rule language. So you're going to see that on every slide. For this rule too, we also eliminated reporting requirements based on subscription value. So the impact to our AAM clients, what this means is not only did you have to explain your multi-copy same addressee, but you also had a separate explanatory if you had a multi-copy sale that exceeded 5% of the total average paid. So we eliminated that additional explanatory. For the merge BPA clients, what we did, we removed the various requirements to report the volume of qualified circulation. So this slide is just an example of both qualified paid circulation with multi-copy same addressee and the notes, the explanatory. The same thing for qualified non-paid multi-copy same addressee and the explanatory. Next, we're going to be still talking about paid and non-paid reporting circulation, but we're talking about membership. So for BPA clients, no change. You already have this is reported as membership. But for our AAM clients prior to the merger, this is new. What we did previously, we had association. Well, what we did is we took BPAs and how they categorized association. They actually expanded it to include all membership that has subscription based for magazines. It's called membership benefits. So we mirrored BPA, and actually, our consumer magazine division already does this. So what we did is we adopted association, we expanded it. It is now, instead of association, membership benefit. And this label change you're going to see is effective for those 6-month June 2024 publisher statement period. So for those that have association or a membership type of program, it would be categorized under membership benefit. And then in the explanatory section, which we refer to as notes, you do explain, give a brief explanation about that membership benefit program. Next, we're still talking about paid and qualified reporting, but we're talking about the geographic analysis. In this instance, no change for our AAM clients, but there is a change for our BPA merge clients. So what we did is the geographic analysis, how it is presented on the actual PDF publisher statement, is it's an alphabetical order. So when you have a United States geo, it is alphabetical order for the 48 continuous United States, with Alaska and Hawaii to follow. For our Canadian clients, it is based on alphabetical order for the provinces. So this is a little bit different for our BPA clients. Traditionally for BPA, your geo was formatted by region. So for AAM, it is for its alpha order. So we're adopting that format where it's an alphabetical order. Now, I do want to point out, though, if you need to have your geographic information by region, you can do so by accessing your information once your statement's released. It is housed in our Media Intelligence Center. And in the periodical analyzer, there's a geographic report you can pull into Excel. And once you pull into Excel, you can sort it any way you want to, including by regions. Also, a change for that impacts the merge BPA clients is that if you had a US publication with Canadian circulation, it used to be you would have to break out the provinces based on a percentage base. Well, we got rid of those percentages, and it's based off of circulation size. So if you have a US publication with Canadian circulation of 35,000 or greater, not only do you break out the states, you also break out all the Canadian provinces, instead of having as a total for Canada. Same thing with the Canadian publications. You would break out, if you had United States that was over 35,000, instead of having a total for United States, you would break out all the United States. The next slide just shows an example of what the geographic analysis looks like on the PDF document. But again, I want to point out that if you do need to have your geo by regions, you can do that by once your statement is released, it is housed in our Media Intelligence Center. And then you can access the periodical analyzer, select a geographic analysis report, export it into Excel, and then you can filter by region. The next thing we're going to be talking about is paid qualifying, non-paid reporting is the business occupational analysis. Also, we refer to this as the BOA. Honestly, there wasn't a whole lot of change to this. We did simplify the rule language just a little bit. The one thing you're going to notice for our AAM clients, we added language to address that print and digital and duplicated. So that's why I talked about print and digital unduplicated in the very beginning of my presentation, just because it affects the reporting of the different elements in the publisher statement as well as the various rules. For BPA clients, we did remove the comparison to issue averages comparison requirement, so that is no longer, you no longer need to do that. So this is a real simple example of a business occupational analysis. Just to let you know, all business occupational analysis are custom for each publication, but this just gives you an idea what it looks like. Next, we're going to be talking about additions for both paid and qualified non-paid circulation. So the first thing we're going to talk about is separate additions. So for AAM clients, really no change for you. We did simplify the rule language just a little bit, but for the most part, the essence of the rule is the same. For merge BPA clients, well, there's a little bit of differences. What we eliminated is the requirement that 50% of the editorial content for the separate edition be the same as the main edition. That is no longer a requirement. Also, too, if it had to be that if you had a separate edition, you had to get approval from the CEO at BPA, well, that's no longer a requirement. You do not need our approval for a separate edition. However, I do want to point out that if it's the first time you're having a separate edition, run it through your audit director just to make sure that everything is in accordance with the rules. But again, you don't need our approval to have a separate edition. Next, when we're talking about paid and qualified editions, we're going to be talking about digital editions. And this is actually a two-part slide. So there's a few things that happened with digital. One, we simplified the rule language, so that's effective for both. But we also fine-tuned the digital definition. For AAM, this is no change. For BPA clients, this is a change for you in the fact that there's actual digital definition. I did so the definition for digital is that a digital edition is defined as a product distributed via electronic digital means that maintains the basic identity of the host publication, either by maintaining the same name, logo, or by identifying itself as an edition of, but may contain different editorial or advertising content. So this is how your digital editions were, but it is just more formalized that we put it in a definition for you. Next is digital editions part two, and this affects both AAM and BPA, and it has to do with bounce backs. So before I dive into what the change was, I need to first go over what a hard bounce is versus a soft bounce. So a hard bounce is when you email a consumer your digital edition and it bounces back, meaning it's an invalid email address. That person does not exist at that email address. That's a hard bounce. Soft bounce is you email the digital edition to the consumer at the email address. It's a valid email address, however, it bounces back because that consumer's digital library is full. So that we consider that a soft bounce. So the change is for paid and non-paid copy delivery resulting in bounce backs, whether it's a soft bounce or hard bounce, may be included in qualified circulation for a limited time frame, provided that the bounce backs are rectified or the subscriber is purged from the file. So for hard bounces, if you have a daily publication, you have 10 issues to rectify the situation. Weekly is 4 issues, bi-weekly is 2, and monthly is 1. For soft bounces, if it's a daily publication, you have 60 issues to fix the issue for the bounce back. Weekly, you had 12 issues, bi-weekly 6 issues, and monthly you have 3 issues. Before I go into questions, this is the last rule for pertaining to paid and qualified before I get into paid specific rules. For paid and qualified non-paid, we have miscellaneous changes for the initial audit, publisher statement, and timing of the audit. So we did simplify the rule and incorporated language to address publications serving medical field. So what this means for AAM, in addition to having June and December publisher statement and audit cycles, we also added July 31st and January 31st to accommodate those medical titles. Changes for BPA in this matter, we eliminated March and September ending audit reports and publisher statements. So for B2B, farm, and consumer magazines, it's all going to be based off a June, December reporting period or July ending, January ending. But there is no longer going to be a March, September ending for periodicals. So no longer for our business pub and farms, you will not see a March ending or September statement or audit report. We also, for the filing deadline, it is 30 days after the end of the reporting period to file your data. Do want to point out this is no change for AAM. We've had this implemented for a long time. This is a change though for our BPA clients. Previously, you had 15 days. Now you have 30 days. Also, at the conclusion of all audit engagements, an audit report will be prepared and released. So this is how it's always been for our AM clients. For our Merge BPA clients, this is a little bit different in the fact that you will have an audit report released, prepared and released after each audit engagement. So there's going to be an audit report that's going to be housed in our Media Intelligence Center along with your publisher statement reports. And so you can access that information, those PDF documents for your publisher statements and audit reports at any time. Do want to point out AM does not print out any reports. So if you want to print a copy of either your publisher statement or audit report, you go in our Media Intelligence Center and you can download the PDF document and then you can print it out how many copies you need. But AM no longer is printing any reports. So I'm just going to pause for a moment and chat to see, do we have questions here regarding the paid and qualified rules that I went over?
Yes, we have one question that just came in. The question is in regards to the hard or soft bounce. If a hard bounce or soft bounce is a digital only request, can we change the edition to print? I was answering, you would need to make sure that the recipient was basically giving an affirmation to receive print. So somehow letting them know, hey, we can't get through to digital, but we're sending you a print copy. Do you want to continue in print, or can you resolve your digital issue?
Okay. Well, thank you, Chad. I appreciate. Is that all the questions we have so far?
That is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The next set of updates I'm going to go over has to do with reflect around paid circulation. So what we did, Deep 1.1 is the rule for paid. And when we talk about paid, we did modify so that 3 months of arrears may be served on a subscription paid for at any price. And we modified international subscriptions to 3 months in arrears. So for our AM clients prior to merger, this no change. For our merge BPA clients, slight change to this. And the fact that subscriptions less than a year, less than 50% of basic prices, now can serve 3 months in arrears and post expires. Prior to that, you weren't able to count those if it was less than a year and less than 50%, but now you can. We also modified the international subscriptions arrears from being 6 months to 3 months. So if you have international subscriptions, you have up to 3 months in arrears instead of 6. We did remove some reporting requirements for paid. Actually, there's no change for for AAM clients. We've already eliminated quite a few explanatories, but for BPA, there is a slight change for you. You no longer need to provide additional information about your paid. For example, there was rules specifically that you had China's single copy, you had to report it, explain it. Same thing with non-returnable single copy sales, had to be explained. That's no longer the case. It's optional if you want to report it, but it's not mandatory. Also, we remove the maximum value of the incentive. So basically, this has been in play for AM for a long time, but what it is if you have a discounted subscription, you can count it as paid as long as you got 1 penny net of considerations. So as long as you got 1 penny for that subscription, you can count that as paid. How this impacts BPA, well, it used to be in order for it to be paid circulation, it had to be 50% of the basic price. Well, that's changed. So as long as you're collecting 1 penny net of considerations. This next slide kind of goes hand in hand with what I just was talking about, but this has to do with premiums. So with premiums, if you have a premium promotion, you collect 1 penny net of consideration plus the value of the premium. And the value of the premium is going to be the cost of the publication, the retail value, or the stated value, whichever is higher. So if you have a premium that is $5, that's the highest value out there. you would need to collect 501, $5 for the premium and 1 penny for the subscription. So this is just a brief example here of discounted pricing. So the first one is saying, yes, send me 3 trial issues. And if I like Prototype Business Journal magazine, please bill me for 9 more. That's 12 issues in all at the great price of $20. So basically, you're getting the contract here. It's 12 issues for $20, definitely more than a penny. So this would count as paid circulation. The next is regarding premium. So there was a premium and it was $5 to manufacturer, but the promotional material states it's $4.99 and it's not sold in the marketplace, so there's no retail value. So the premium value would be the highest between $4.99 and $5. So it would be $5 would be the premium value. Plus, you would have to collect at least 1 penny for the subscription. So you would have to collect 501, $5 for the premium and 1 penny for the subscription. Next, we're talking about paid and we're talking about average price. Average pricing is optional. So for our B2B and farm clients, reporting average price is purely optional. Consumer magazines, it's mandatory. But for B2B and farm publications, the reporting of your average price is purely optional. So for our AAM clients, no change in that. For our BPA clients, well, a little bit of change in that used to have a requirement that if the publication had over 50,000 circulation and the paid circulation was 5%, you had to report your average pricing. We removed that. So average pricing truly is purely optional to report. Also, too, we updated the calculation for average pricing. The total gross production is based off the 6-month statement period, not 12 months. So it's based off the current 6-month statement period. For those that really want to report average pricing, we do have examples out there for you and the formula to do it. To be honest with you, I think we have maybe 1 or 2 business publications that do report average pricing. So I do want to point out that average pricing, it's optional for B2B and farm titles, but mandatory for consumer magazines. Next is another reporting option for paid, and it's subscription sales analysis. Also, a lot of you know this is the channels. So for AM clients, really didn't change anything. It truly is optional. For BPA clients, you had a requirement that if a threshold of 5% or more paid subscriptions were for sale, you had to report the sales channels information. We got rid of that. It is truly purely optional to report optional subscription sales information. Next is paid and it's gift subscriptions. So no change for AAM, but a minor change for BPA in that there's a cap. So if you have a public consumer that gives gift subscriptions out, the cap is 50 subscriptions for any 1 donor. To be honest with you, gift subscriptions really aren't popular in the business and farm world. They're more on consumer magazine side, but we do have this rule available for gift subscriptions, and there is a cap of 50. Next, we're talking about paid and we're talking about partnership rules. No change for AAM, but this is a new rule for our BPA clients. And what this is, it's if a consumer purchases a product or a service and included in their purchase is a subscription to a magazine, you can count that as paid as long as the consumer had the option to get a refund for the magazine if they didn't want that magazine. It's called partnership sales. Honestly, it's not a popular thing in the business world. You see this more common in the consumer magazine division side of things, but we do have this rule available in case you wanted to do a partnership type of sale. Next, we're still talking about paid and we're talking about deferred subscriptions and back copies. So no change for AAM clients when it comes to deferred subscriptions. For our BPA clients, this is new. Individual subscribers, what a deferred subscription is that individual subscribers receive a publication 1 month or more after the on sale date. And these issues are served from returns. If a subscriber pays a qualifying price, these subscriptions are classified as individually paid. Next is back copies. Just some minor changes, actually no impact for BPA. For AAM, we did put that you no longer need to report and provide back copy explanatories. Before I dive into the qualified non-paid circulation rules, just seeing if we have any questions about paid. Chad, do we have questions for paid?
No, there are no questions about paid.
Wonderful, thank you. So the last thing we're going to be talking about as far as rule updates has to do with qualified non-paid circulation. And the rule we're going to be talking about has to do with source analysis, D 5.3. Really what we did is that we simplified the rule language. For AAM clients, what we did, we added information in about paid, digital, and duplicated. So again, if you happen to have print, and digital and duplicated. What we had talked about in the very beginning of the webinar is how it's going to be formatted. Also, too, we changed the label from age of source to source analysis. This is how BPA referred to it, so we are going to refer to it as source analysis effective with the June 2024 publisher statement. It is no longer going to be age of source, it's going to be called source analysis. What impacted both BPA and AAM is the COVID-19 reporting option to report recency or engagement in lieu of age of source. We eliminated it. And the reason why we eliminated, to be honest with you, nobody took us up on it. I think we had one person who tried and it was not successful. So we got rid of it. So there is no longer, when you go on the filing tool, you're going to see that engagement analysis option that will be removed. On the BPA side, we did have, we removed the comparison to issue averages comparison requirement. That's no longer needed. So this is just an example of two different ways you can report age of source. You can do the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year breakout, or you can also break it out in total. Next is qualifying non-paid mailing address analysis. This is purely optional. No changes really for BPA. It's still optional. For AM clients, what we did, we added language for the print and digital and duplicated. Also, too, you can substitute store names only for company names only. So just some minor little edits there. Again, it's purely optional to report, but if you did, this is an example. Next is a two-parter for qualified non-paid direct request. So the first thing we did, we simplified the rule language. So for our AM clients, really no change for you, just a little bit of simplification. For our BPA clients, though, on the other hand, you had all these rules that pertain to non-paid direct request. It is now all rolled up into one rule. So we have one rule for qualified non-paid direct request circulation. On the AAM side of things, we did modify direct request qualifications. So we took BPA and how they qualified their direct requests and applied it for AAM. So to be classified as a direct request from recipient, the request must come from either the recipient supervisor, assistant, or coworker. What we did is we eliminated authorized assistant and coworker. We also added that requests originating from a coworker will qualify for a maximum 2 subscriptions as direct request. Qualify non-paid direct request part 2, modified application and group subscriptions. So for AAM, no change. For Merge BPA clients, there is a change in how you report your group subscriptions. Previously, you reported group subscriptions under paid. Now it's going to be reported under qualified non-paid direct request. So group subscriptions are categorized as qualified non-paid direct request. Next, we modified the application of multi-copy site licenses. No change for AAM clients, but for Merge BPA clients, there is a change. Digital magazine site licenses will be reported as direct request and included in the total circulation. Previously, you reported it separately, and it wasn't included in total circulation. Now it can be. Also, pertains to BPA clients because we didn't have this for AAM. We eliminated the reference to General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. Any reference to that, you're not going to see. Next, we're going to talk about qualifying non-paid other than direct requests. So we did simplify the language and we removed the inclusion of unpaid arrears and removed circulation volume reporting requirements. For the AAM clients, no change. For our merged BPA clients, there is a change to this. And one, again, we consolidate quite a bit of the rules that were for other than direct request into one rule. Also, too, what's changed is arrears unpaid for 3 months and credit subscriptions unpaid for 6 months can no longer be transferred to qualified non-paid. Also, too, we removed the various requirements to report the volume of qualified non-paid circulation. So those are the rule updates for qualified non-paid. Just want to see if there's any questions. Chad, do we have questions for the qualified non-paid?
That's any questions on that?
Wonderful. So that was a lot of information to go in a short amount of time, but truly our purpose today was just to highlight the main rule changes. And also too, I want to point out we have some really good resources out there. So if you click on this resource guide link, it goes directly to AM resources. It goes to our resource page. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be updating these guides to make sure they encompass all the rule updates, but we have various guides for paid promotions, for qualified non-paid and digital, etc. Also, too, let me get to this slide. Yeah, the best resource, though, available is our staff, is our audit directors. If you have questions about any programs, anything, any of the AAM rules and how it applies to you, please reach out to your audit directors and they'll be happy to address your questions and work with you on your programs and making sure that they're in accordance with the rules. Also, too, you can always contact me and I'm more than happy to help out. If I don't know the answer, I will definitely do the research for you. So I'd like to thank everybody for attending this webinar. There was a lot of information we went in a short amount of time. I do want to point out that in the next couple of days, you will receive an email from me that will have an update about this webinar. It'll have a copy of the webinar recording, a copy of my PowerPoint presentation, also my webinar notes that go over the various rule updates. So with that, I'm going to close out the webinar and thank you so much for attending and have a wonderful day.